tang vitang tang sajevam sadvaitam savadutam parijana sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Mukkam Karati Bhachalam Pangolang Hayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Vande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Nama Shrestam Manamapi Sachi Putra Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagraja Madhuparim Matarim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Jasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurun Tanmatosmi Anindantam Pulakot Karena Bikasam Nipa Prasunatschavim Prodrikritva Bujadvayam Hari Hari Itu Chai Vedantam Muhu Nrittantam Drutam Asru Nirjara Chaye Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadai Parivratam Shri Gaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himavadivyachchavi Sundaraya Tasmaya Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Sri Lalita Saptami Ki Jai Sri Lalita Sakhi Ki Jai Sri Swarup Damodar his Swarup was the bandar, the ratna-sar bandar means all the jewels, the treasury, the topmost jewels, Siddhantic Chintamani gems are, if Chaitanya Lila, are kept by Swarup Damodar. He's the bandari of that. So like we've seen it on, you want to get something, they go, oh, you have to see the bandari. And the bandari is the person that has all the key, and they can open up the storehouse and address whatever your particular service necessity is. So Swarup Damodar is that of Gaura-lila. Everything comes from him. And that's indicated by Krishna-lila Svarup Goswami and Chaitanya Charitamritam, where he's saying, mildly paraphrasing, if anyone knows anything substantially about Mahaprabhu, they must have heard it from Swarup Damodar, right? Hare Krishna. So, Mahaprabhu Dutiya Kalevar means Mahaprabhu's second self, his second form. Mahaprabhu the second. And we'll get to that, but who is this Swarup Damodar that we're to give express so much gratitude toward for everything that we received in this line of Krishna consciousness? And why so significant? As we hear in the Krishna-lila, Swarup Damodar is Lalita Sakhi. So, as we heard recently, the first other than Krishna, Balaram, and then everything coming. You can say here, the first other than Srimati Radharani, Lalita Sakhi. And it's interesting to note, in parallel, as Baladev can voice opposition, Lalita Sakhi can also be a contrarian, but always an advocate of Srimati Radharani. Srila Guru Maharaj will mention, because we might say, well, it says Lalita Vishaka, you just said in the prayer. Yes, Vishaka Devi, Ramananda Sambandha. But Guru Maharaj will say, and these are very high things, but this is a day where some of these things may be voiced in remembrance of what we've heard from Srila Guru Maharaj. And he would say, Vishaka equally disposed towards Radha and Krishna, equal, but not Lalita. She's exclusively an advocate for Srimati Radharani, her position, everything. And that may cause her to oppose Krishna. But we say, the noble opposition, the sweet opposition, that opposition which is enhancing and nourishing Lila, that gives so much inspiration to Krishna. He likes that. It increases the emotional intensity of the pastimes. But we say this is the Rupa-nuga line, as indicated by Mahaprabhu, when he more than introduced, really conferred in the presence of all the great Parshadas, the premier position of Srila Rupa Goswami. So we tell Rupa-nuga, and rightfully so. But Kavi Karnapur, in one of his prayers, he uses the expression svarupa-nugas. Right? So the line of Rupa necessarily must be svarupa-nuga, because Swarup being Lalita, so Lalita Vishaka, Rupa Rati, Rupa Raghunath, like that. So it's a very beautiful thing to be expressed. And who better than Srila Rupa Goswami to express the qualities, the position, the glories of Lalita Devi. Hare Krishna. So he's also written Radha-ashtakam, but he has this Lalita-ashtakam. And we should mention that in these ashtakams, you can say, the first verse is of special significance. Because if you're thinking of these different types of glorification, where do you start? So the first one will have to indicate something really unique. It cannot be generic. It has to indicate something very specific, unique to that person, so that everyone can understand these glories, this sort of praise, and why. And so what you will choose to emphasize also has to have some significance. It wouldn't just be on a list of qualities, you select one and say this. No, in a list of innumerable good qualities, you'll have to say, well, this one that will open up the door for understanding everything about her. Right? So we need to understand what is her particular mood, personality, service intensity, and concept. So in that verse, the first verse, says Radha Mukunda Parasambhava Garma Bindu Nirmanchano Pakarani Krita Deho Laksham Utunga Sohrida Vishesha Vishat Pagalbam Devim Gunai Salalitam Lalitam Namami. So, and also we see the beautiful poetry of Rupa Goswami using her name Lalita, but also Lalita as a quality of Lalita. So Lalita, we could say, means elegant, like beautiful, but with grace and gracefulness, everything, elegance might be the closest English rendering of that. So he's saying, Devim Gunai, she's Devi. Devim Gunai, Sulalitam, Lalitam Namami. And she's not only Lalita, but Sulalita, Sulalitam, Lalitam Namami. I'm giving my pranams to her. And why? Because Radha Mukunda Parasambhava Garma Bindu. That's the first thing that Sri Rupa leads with, saying, Radha and Mukunda, and Krishna, in their confidential pastimes, it's possible that a drop of sweat might come to the lotus feet. That's how perfectly he's dealing with us. And so that's where you're starting. So I think there, and what is it? Nirmanchano Pakarani Krita Deho Laksham. And Lalita Sakhi is so focused upon this seva and not allowing the least disturbance or inconvenience or distraction to enter that plane. And so you think, so what? She's prepared to sacrifice her whole life for that small, that seemingly very small, minuscule thing. She's ready to give her whole life. You say, no, that would be admirable. As we know in the general world, when they use this expression of they paid the ultimate sacrifice, means they gave their life for a cause. And all over the world, soldiers or people are celebrated for doing that. You know, everyone will say, yes, what we have today is because they made this ultimate sacrifice. They gave their lives. But Srila Rupa Goswami is saying, Lalita Sakhi can expand, not just one, but into 100,000 Lalita Sakhis to ensure that no disturbance enters into that plane. So imagine, if you have a soldier who can give their life, that is wonderful. But if you have a soldier who could become 100,000 soldiers who give their lives, what kind of soldier is that? We've never heard of such a soldier. That's why he's saying that. This is her. Right? And then we think, and what do we extract from this? Means she's has the greatest eagerness and say magnitude for seva of the least. Greatest magnitude for the least type of service. Whereas sometimes neophytes voyeuristically envisioning themselves as super servitors in that plane. No, she's focused on this least aspect of seva to give her full attention and even to expand that greatly. And that is the way of measuring genuine Krishna consciousness, substance, is through inversion, not ostentatious displays of achievement, but rather the willingness to offer oneself fully to the least aspect of seva. And that's consistent in the prayers of Raghunath Das Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami's praise of Srimati Radharani, the prayers of Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur and the Radha Rasa Shuddha Nidhi. Everywhere, this principle is at play. Total self-sacrifice for the least aspect. And then, so Deho Laksham Utunga Sohrada Vishesha Pragalbam. Vasat Pragalbam. Pragalbam, Guru Maharaj translated this word as haughty, which is kind of an older English word, but means like, I would say, bold, but what's another word for that? Like arrogant, but that's not, huh? Right. All these things we might factor into that. Forward, assertive, boldly assertive. So we say, well, why is he mentioning that? We're told devotees are not like that. I thought devotees are supposed to be submissive and really nice. and you're saying, so in your first prayer glorifying her, you're saying, she is very, is not always submissive and sometimes very assertive and bold and pushy. And are those good things? And Rupa Goswami is saying, it's so beautiful to see her like that. That when Radharani sometimes in her exchange with Krishna is feeling, overwhelmed or inadequate or not, Lalita can tell her not to be like that, can inspire her to go against Krishna. And Rupa Goswami, how sweet that is. Or if she sees Krishna is not treating Srimati Radharani fairly, to chastise him. I think, well, whoa, I thought devotees are supposed to be real, submissive and always like you're saying there's another plane where someone's chastising Krishna. Is that possible? Gopyadade Chitagasi Damatavad Yate Dashashu Kalilanjana Sambramaksham. And the prayers of Kunti, she says, I find this vision intoxicating, that Krishna, who is feared by fear personified, that his mother Yashoda is chasing after him with a stick, prepared to whip him, and the kajal, the eye mascara on his lotus eyes, the tears are causing the mascara to play upon his lotus face, and it's making it even more beautiful. And so he's running away from Yashoda, and she's coming to chastise him. And Kunti is saying, I find this vision utterly intoxicating. In a similar way, Srila Rupa Goswami is saying, when this behavior of life, it's not rough, we don't see it, we see it as sweet and intoxicatingly beautiful to see her advocate on behalf of our mistress like this, even to the extent of chastising Krishna. So that's the first verse. So he's identifying these types, qualities, characteristics. Then some verses later, he says something that is very peculiarly delightful and somewhat puzzling. He said, Yat kamapi brajakule brishabhanujaya preksha shapaksha parivim anuradyamanam sadyastadishtagathanena kritartayantim devim gunai salalitam lalitam namami. Saying, in Vrindavan, brajakule, that she is canvassing others to enter her group. The way Guru Maharaj said it, others are approaching her. You know, like sometimes someone, Hare Krishna, secretly slips a paper to someone, like, you know. So others, they're approaching her. She's also approaching others. Okay. And then this, why I say it's delightful and puzzling at the same time. Vrindavan is for the highest section of liberated souls. Generally, when we think of canvassing or preaching, we think about in this world that those with Krishna conscious substance, they're preaching to fallen souls or aspiring servitors. It's sort of a kind of an upgrade. But if we understand properly the position of Vrindavan, where, Vaikuntha Prithvivyadi Sakala Chinmoy, even the soil is of superior substance. Guru Maharaj told the land of gurus, and a chapter in one of the books here, saying that how can you walk in the land of guru if the soil is guru? How can you dare take a step there in that plain? And he gave the example, the altar, really, a representation of Anantadev. You should not put your feet on the altar. That's offensive. But he said, but to put the crown with the peacock feather on Krishna, you might have to climb the altar. So that's the answer. How can you walk in the land of gurus? Only out of service necessity, not out of curiosity or great eagerness to know the secrets about what's going on. None of that. Right? Only service necessity. As Das Goswami says in his prayers, consistent with what we've expressed thus far, Sakaya me mama namastu satyam, dasaya te mama rasastu satyam. Here's Sakaya implying intimacy. I'm saying, that's not what I'm thinking of. Dasaya te, I'm focused on the least aspect of seva. And without some higher servitor involved, what would I be thinking about on the intimate side of things? That is not my consideration thoughts. Only out of service necessity, whether that plane or any other plane. So So and this is what I mean to say. So in that soil, the land of gurus, and so what to speak of the divine souls who are traversing that soil, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Radha, Padman Kitadam Vrindavan Dharanam. So who are you going to preach to? If it's only the highest section of liberated souls get entrance in there, who are you going to convert to what? But he's saying, no, she's serving the others. He always sits in the back. Since Avadut Maharaj first engaged him in sound, that's his eternal seva. He's the sound man. Shabda Brahman, Shabda Roop, Rupam Jyotir. What is that? Jyotir Pritir Tanum Hiranya Purusham. Anyway, that's something else. But so that means among liberated souls, like we hear the story, the Leela of Shyamananda, right? That legitimately Ragamarg Diksha into Sakya Rasa, right? Wandering the plain of Vrindavan, discovers a Nupur, a bangle. It's extraordinary, like Chintamani composition, puts in his cloth, then finds some Sakhi looking hither and thither, how do you say, what's the word? Frantically, or, And he said, what? And she said, my mistress was here last evening and lost a bangle. And he opens his cloth. Is this that bangle? Oh, yes. And takes the bangle and, And we're told what he becomes imbued with Madhura Rasa sentiments from the touch of that Chintamani bangle, we can say from the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, such potency. And when his Sakya Rasa Guru calls for explanation, and from Jiva Goswami, who declines to attend, and we're told, that he's when they see he's got this new kind of tilak that they don't wear, and he's saying, try and efface the tilak, they can't, it's permanent. Then we're told, and the guru is somewhat mystified, and we're told, in the upper world, from Lalita Sakhi's camp, Subal's the camp, highest section of cowherd boys, Lalita, they make this arrangement and saying, we're taking that one, Subal, we're taking that one for our group, right? To which he, of course, how do you say, graciously agrees. So if we thought beyond what Rupa Goswami is describing in these verses, is there any evidence to that? There's an example to that. So this type of exclusive devotion is there, and unparalleled, with the exception of Vishaka Sakhi, but really unparalleled assistance to that of Srimati Radharani. So she's sometimes known as Anuradha, which you could say means various things. Radha Jr., little Radha, it can also mean that, but it means like there's Radharani, Anuradha. After Radharani, there's Anuradha Lalita Sakhi. She's the one. So then we can understand if aparam kasyapi pranay janavindashukutuki, the curiosity has awakened in Krishna to experience the Radha, the position of and heart of Srimati Radharani. Who can assist him in doing this? We will call that terra incognito. Remember, Krishna as the Adi Purush, Govinda, the supreme enjoyer, that position is contrary to the position of a devotee. Right? The devotee is enjoyed, servitor. So when Krishna wants to embrace the position of or to taste the position of Srimati Radharani, he cannot do that as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme male, with that sort of mentality. So he's saying, I can only understand that theoretically as Krishna, and which is interesting. Krishna is omnipotent, right? Omniscient, all the omnis, right? That's his sort of default position as the personality of Godhead. But what does he reveal in Chaitanya Charitamritam? That I cannot estimate, even from my omniscient position, I cannot estimate the heights, the limits, the depths of the love of Srimati Radharani. And from my present position, I can only understand it theoretically. To feel that and experience that, I would have to adopt her position. Rasotstamam hritva madhuram upabhoktam kam apiya. So he plunders, steals the heart of Srimati Radharani and the attendant halo, and Shama Sundar Krishna is converted into Gauranga Sundar Mahaprabhu. Right? So, and what is Rupa Goswami saying is Chaitanya-ashtakam? Svarupam, Svarupam bibrano jagatatulyam. The position of Swarup Damodar is unparalleled. Right? The Guru Maharaj said, the steel frame work upon which the 14 slokas, the basis of Chaitanya Charitamritam expressed in the beginning, is based on the notes of Swarup Damodar. And who is his assistant? Raghunath Das Goswami. So it's from Swarup and Raghunath, but Raghunath, he's Swaruper Raghu. He's Swarup's Raghu. Right? So it really means and those first slokas are Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami. That means Lalita Sakhi and Rupa Manjari. They're presenting in Gaura-lila how to properly understand the position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? When the verse Pranam, I mentioned Nama Srestam Manamapi Sachiputra Atra Swarupam. So Sachiputra, the son of Mother Sachi, means Mahaprabhu. Atra Swarupam means Swarup Damodar, Lalita Sakhi. Right? His most dear beloved associate, secretary, and confidant. So in the pastimes of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, we can infer and understand from like the Brahmar Gita, where the Srimati Radharani may become lost in divine madness and lose, you could say, self-consciousness. So sometimes coming out of that, she has to ask Lalita Sakhi, what happened? Just as Mahaprabhu will say to Swarup Damodar, did I say something peculiar? He's saying he does not remember. She cannot recall in the depths of her divine madness who is at her side, assisting her, supplying the proper song, prayer, and maintaining her composure is in Krishna-lila, Lalita Sakhi, and Gaura-lila, Swarup Damodar. So when Raghunath Das Goswami comes to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, and he's put under the care of Swarup Damodar, Swarupa Raghu. After some time, Swarup Damodar comes and says, Raghunath would like to speak to you personally and directly. And, all right. And so he said, do you have some special instructions for me, personally? And that's when he says, Balo no kaibe, balo no pari, don't dress, don't eat luxurious foods, manasa Radha Krishna, smaranam. And he gives these instructions to Raghunath Das Goswami personally. But he says, but understand, the reason I put you under the care of Swarup Damodar, it's not, don't think of that as like an ancillary, a secondary position in the sense of not being, essential or substantial, right? He's saying, what I don't know, he knows fully. And that's why I put you under his. What I don't know, he knows fully. And I say, well, wait, what doesn't Mahaprabhu know? Well, if we go, Krishna's saying, I cannot estimate the depths and the limits of her divine love. And being enveloped in her heart and halo, where does that come from? We say heart and halo, that's Swarup Damodar. Radha Bhava Duty Subalita. Bhav, heart, duty, halo. Radha Bhava Duty Subalita. It is Swarup Damodar who says Mahaprabhu is Krishna enveloped in the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani. So when so Mahaprabhu tells that to Raghunath Das Goswami. And then we'll say, what does he mean? Hare Krishna. Just try them. That, we told, Lalita Sakhi is, and as Swarup Damodar, maintaining composure. So Mahaprabhu, like Srimati Radharani, plunging the depths of divine madness, particularly for the last 12 years of his manifest pastimes. When Prabhupada used to say that one meaning of yuga was 12 years, Govinda Virahena, feeling your separation is like 12 years or more. So I said to Guru Maharaj, I thought yuga means, so many more years than that, right? And he said, that's true. He said, but one meaning is also a yuga. So a 12-year period is also a yuga. And it's noteworthy that the last 12 years of the manifest pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are behind closed doors in the Gangbir with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. And so Swarup Damodar is, when he said, knows what I don't know. So Mahaprabhu in this terra incognito, he's exploring the heart of Srimati Radharani, and so many deep sentiments and Krishna Viraha, separation, are coming to him. At that time, Swarup Damodar knows to sing this song or to supply this sloka. It will either amplify a particular mood or bring some relief to the separation suffering heart. So Rupa Goswami says that in his prayer, Swarupam Bibrano Jagatatulyam Advaita Dvaita. Then what is Srila Guru Maharaj in his Bhakti Vinod Viraha Dasakam? And you say, Sri Gauranumatam Swarupa Viditam. So what was expressed in Charitamritam by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami? What was expressed in the Chaitanya-ashtakam by Srila Rupa Goswami? Guru Maharaj, Sri Gauranumatam Swarupa Viditam. Who knows fully why Mahaprabhu is descended? That is known to Swarup Damodar only. You see, just these few words, how perfectly expressed by Srila Guru Maharaj. Gauranumatam Swarupa Viditam, Rupa Agrajayan Adritam, worshipped by Sanatan, enhanced and distributed by Sri Rupa, Rupadye Pariveshitam Raghuganai. Raghugan means here, Raghunath Das Goswami and his followers. From Swarup Damodar, everything goes, his assistant, Raghunath Das Goswami in separation from Swarup Damodar and Mahaprabhu, has lost his reason for living. So he leaves Puri and goes, where his plan? Go to Govardhan and Radha Kunda, and then go to Govardhan and throw himself from Govardhan and leave this world. Right? But he finds when he goes there, oh, Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar are alive and well in Rupa and Sanatan. So he stays on. And so he's carrying the full wealth, that treasury, the bandari of Swarup Damodar, the treasure is all in Raghunath Das Goswami, who is his assistant. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, the full transfer of that wealth to him, and then it's expressed in the pages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam. And what will we find there? That, again, something that's peculiar. We say, Mahaprabhu, Namo Mahavadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura-lila Nama. The most magnanimous, and because he is so mercifully distributing the highest thing to the lowest section, we can't imagine who is more merciful than he. Well, devotees will say, "Oh, Nityananda, he's bringing everyone to the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu." But still, Mahaprabhu, the Mahavadanaya avatar. And then what are we told? But, however, if Rasabas or Upasiddhanta will come to his ear, the Mahavadanaya avatar will become angry. Right? It's not a trivial matter. Because what does it mean? We could say those in the lower section are kind of exempt, the way children are, from so many things. But for those in the lower section to start meddling with higher things, that's what it's talking about. Talking about higher things, rasabas, higher things, upasiddhanta. That will make Mahaprabhu angry because it's reality. It's not just siddhanta, sloka, it's reality. You're meddling with reality. He can't tolerate that. So what are we told? So some devotee's written something, it has to first pass the Swarup Damodar test. You can't just go blurt this out to Mahaprabhu. Swarup Damodar has to hear it first, and he'll decide whether it reaches the ear of Mahaprabhu or not. So, but we're telling one instance, there's a group of devotees, they think something written by this one devotee, it's really delightful, they all think it's great, Haribol, Jai, Prabhu. And Swarup Damodar is a little skeptical. We could say he's like telling them that, really to express these things, you have to talk properly about Krishna-lila or Gaura-lila, you have to have fully taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Dev, Bhagavata Parodi, or Bhagavatastani. You want to describe this, you have to hear from the person Bhagavat, but they keep insisting. So finally, and what does Swarup Damodar say before? He said, you are, a Parama Udar, a very liberal cowherd boy. It reminds me of Gurudev saying like simple-hearted, something like, you like to hear all, anyway. So then they more or less force him to hear these things. And all the devotees, they're listening. And it's supposed to be some glorification of Jagannath and Mahaprabhu and the group of devotees. And they're not a bunch of neophytes. But they're listening, going, Jai, Haribol, oh, that's so sweet, that's so wonderful. And Swarup Damodar becomes angry and saying, what is this? This is an offense, what you're expressing. Who knows what sort of hell awaits you for saying these things? And everyone is like shocked to hear that. And he explains to him how it is faulty. To rasabas, upasiddhanta. It may have the sound like shastric noise or some generic representation, but he's pointing out there's no spiritual substance to be found here. When Srila Saraswati Thakur said about the so-called Amiya, Nimai Charit, Lord Gauranga, He said, Nija Boge Gorilla Goranga. He's presented the Gauranga that amuses him. Because he's taken from Charitamritam, Chaitanya Bhagavad, Chaitanya Mangal. Saraswati Thakur saying, yeah, he's taken things that he finds amusing or enjoyable. He said, no one of a real proper Vaishnava won't find any genuine spiritual substance there. So Swarup Damodar is that. So he shows all the faults, and then he sees that devotee, understandably so, is crushed. Right? Swarup Damodar saying, like, for what you just expressed, who knows what hell awaits you? Mahaprabhu's secretary is telling. He's like, and all the devotees are like. And then we see this quality again. Swarup Damodar is so merciful, seeing the broken devotee before him, broken-hearted and broken in every way. And he's saying, well, sometimes Goddess Saraswati, we say certain things and she turns it in, what might appear to be offensive, it turns into a glorification. Like in the case of Shishupal, he said to Krishna, Naradama, right, which means the lowest among, Nara-adhama, the lowest among men. And Goddess Saraswati turns it into Narottama, Nara-uttama, the best among men. And, in Indra Mohan, he said some offensive things about Krishna. Saraswati's converting them. And so, Purusha Adam, lowest among men. In another context, back to Shiva. And what is it? Purushottama, Purusha Uttama, the best among men. So Swarup Damodar said, okay, I'll look at your verse again. All right, now I look at it, I'm going to reinterpret it. And he reinterprets it in a very beautiful and substantial way, and then everyone becomes happy. So such is the position of Swarup Damodar. And we know also in the Hera Panchami, where Srivas Thakur, who is Narada, elsewhere, otherwise. And we know Narada has this tendency to prod circumstances to get it to come to a conclusion sooner, right? Like in Krishna-lila, so also in Gaura-lila. So in the presence of Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar, all these Parshada Bhaktas, when after a few days, Jagannath has left with Balabhadra and Subhadra to Vrindavan, and then Lakshmi Devi is thinking I've been played. He said he's going to his hometown with his brother and sister. Something's not right here. I think he's going to see his teenage sweetheart. And she comes, and it's normally the lover being neglects herself and doesn't dress nicely and lets herself go and is wallowing in self-pity. And here Lakshmi comes dressed to the nines and full opulence on a palanquin with so many dancers, servitors, chastising the servants of Jagannath and demanding he present himself. And Mahaprabhu is saying, where does this sort of mood come from? And that's the signal for Swarup Damodar to hold a class court on rasa vishesh, the intricacies of rasa and all different types of gopis and things we should not discuss the details of, but it's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we fold our palms, bow our heads in the Parayan when we consecutively read that. But it's so wonderful. And it's Mahaprabhu hearing from him. He's asking Swarup Damodar, you explain these things. And it's giving great delight to the heart of Sri Chaitanya Dev. And that's when Srivas Thakur to Prad says but really, look at the opulence of the goddess of fortune. What do they have in Vrindavan? It's a village, right? With trees and cows. I mean, but look at Lakshmi Devi, unparalleled opulence and no comparison, right? And that's when Mahaprabhu says, oh, Srimati, be careful what you say in front of Swarup Damodar. He is a Shuddha brij-basi. Opulence, Aishwarya, is not a word in his dictionary. Right? So be careful what you say around him. You might upset Swarup Damodar. And Swarup Damodar is saying, no, it's not that I don't understand Aishwarya, opulence. But I think Srivas, maybe temporary insanity, you've lost your mind, you've forgotten certain things. And of course, this is the plan of Srivas Thakur to have this come out. He's saying, yes, Vrindavan, there's the virtually unlimited opulence of the Vaikuntha world. And Vrindavan, what is it? Sholasha Krosha, 50 square kilometers. It's village-like. Everything's in human proportion. And it's true. What is there? Trees, cows, the river. And remember, Mahaprabhu brought from South India Krishna Karnamritam and Brahma Sangita. So he selects a verse from Brahma Sangita. What is it? Sreya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Bhumi Drumis Chintamani Gunamai Toyam Amritam Kataganam Natyaгаmanam Priya Bangshi Sakhi. But he's saying, yeah, but what are those trees? It's village-like, but what are these trees? Kalpavriksha. They're all Kalpavriksha trees. What are those cows? Surabhi. It's full of Surabhi cows. What is the water there? You're talking about the streams, rivers. What is it? Toyam, Amritam. They're all Amrita, nectar. What's the soil? Chintamani Gonamoyi. The soil's made out of Chintamani gems. And there, in that plain, all movement is dance, all speech is sung. And there's Krishna with his flute, his dear friend, the flute playing, And this world is very rarely achieved by even the highest section of liberated souls. But who are they? The greatest devotees. Radharani's, she is the supreme Brajagopi. They're all her expansions and extensions, including the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha, the queens of Dwarka, the gopis of Vrindavan, occupy the highest position, not the so-called Aishwarya zones or spheres. And so, it says, and in that plain, then he quotes a verse, so 2 books, Brahma Sangita, Karnamritam, Chintamani's Charana Bhushana Mangananam. One Chintamani gem has more opulence than all the Vaikunthas, because in that Shola Krosha, 16 square kilometer, 50 square kilometer zone, the whole Vaikuntha world is like a particle of that soil. And in that soil where the Chintamani gems are, Chintamani's Charana Bhushana Mangananam, Brajagopis, those cowherd girls, simple, as Guru Maharaj said, half-civilized, silly jungle girls, they're posing. They're stringing Chintamani gems. Remember, one of them has more than all the opulence of the Vaikunthas and other world. They're stringing them, and then they create a little anklet, and they're wearing them on their lotus feet. That's when Srivas Thakur starts dancing. That's what he wanted to hear. That's why he pushed Swarup Damodar. So, and I'd like you to say something. You were with Gurudev so many times on this day, but I just want to add this, that, well, would you like to say now? Because I'll just give a little intro. So in our observations, the position of His Divine Grace, Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, we can't help but notice parallels and comparisons to Lalita Sakhi. That laser-like focus on the least aspect of seva, so that no disturbance goes in the upper world. That's the way Gurudev served Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj is upstairs writing his Prema Dhamma Deva Stotram and all of his other things. Gurudev's managing all the service below so that no disturbance goes to Guru Maharaj, so he can do that seva. And he has that sort of exclusive focus. And when we were in Govardhan with His Divine Grace once, and there was a little parikrama party going, and on that day it was Ucha Gaon. If Kum Didi was, she will remember that, because we got lost looking for Kadam Kandi, and it turned in, but you get lost in that plane. We found Sue Davies' play and so many wonderful things, and ultimately Ucha Gaon, Lalita-bari, the house, the place of Lalita Sakhi. But it was proffered to Srila Gurudev, would you like to go? And he said that he had such a profound and wonderful visit there previously, so many years before, a deep spiritual connection with him, that he was afraid if he went again, that it would spoil that. So that one time, that was it for him. And as we saw, Guru Maharaj, this special connection with Kadam Kandi, and Gurudev had this special affinity for the house, plane, and for Lalita Sakhi, and he occupies that position in the pastimes of Srila Guru Maharaj. So you were with His Divine Grace many times on this day, and her name is Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi. So,
Jai Gurudev. By His grace, we were with him so many times on this occasion, and 2 days in a row festival, Lalita Saptami and Radha-ashtami. And we found that this day in particular, Lalita Saptami, was a specialty of his, that he would speak a little longer with more in-depth detail. And he said of the 2 days, Lalita Saptami is a little more specific for us.
yeah.
Everyone knows about Radharani and Radha-ashtami, and it's a big festival in Vrindavan. But in our Gaudiya Vaishnav line, in the line of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, that this day is very specific for us, very exclusive, and so much importance he would give on this day to hear about Lalita Devi's glories, to try to render service and be appreciating this day somehow through the Devotees Association and hearing from Srila Gurudev. And of this, what you were speaking about, Ucha Gaon and Gurudev not wanting to go again, but he told us about the first time he went. And it was on Vrindavan Parikrama with Srila Sridhar Maharaj in the 1950s. And Gurudev joined in 1947, and he received initiation in Rath Yatra at Jagannath Puri.
Yes.
That was 47. Then around 1950, Srila Sridhar Maharaj took Srila Gurudev, and Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was there for some time. They all joined.
Krishna-das Babaji.
Sorry, Krishna-das Babaji
Yes.
was with them
They
on
were
some
like
of it.
Madhukari, even.
Yeah. And living like sometimes under bridges and caves and under trees, and spent like a month, I think it was Kartik month,
Yes.
that they were doing.
And also getting from the local people for their sustenance.
Madhukari,
Yeah.
begging door to door. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj took Gurudev to all the places on the Braj Mandal Parikrama, and specifically took him to Ucha Gaon to Lalita Devi's house. And it's up on a hilltop. And he said, as Srila Guru Maharaj was taking him up the stairs, he felt like he was going home. He said this was like hitting home with him, and that he completely saw Vrindavan Dham in its transcendental form, and he was at his house, and they took prasadam there, which is a famous offering of chapatis and spinach. Always at Lalita-bari, they serve chapatis and spinach, which must be indicative of some of her favorite preparations. And we tried to do that here also, cooking wonderful chapatis and spinach as part of our offering. And he said he was overwhelmed in ecstasy at Ucha Gaon, at Lalita's body, and he said it was so extraordinary that he never wanted to go back again to experience anything less. And when completing Braj Mandal Parikrama with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he asked Srila Gurudev, so what was your favorite place? We went everywhere in Braj Mandal Parikrama, and which is your favorite? And he said, Ucha Gaon, Lalita Devi's house. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, that is your place.
Hey Krishna.
So such a parallel there with our Gurudev and Lalita Devi. And as in his words, Lalita Devi's our chief in the very exclusive line of service to Radha and Krishna, in the line of Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. And he says, anyone that comes to this line of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, they must go ultimately to that service line under Lalita Devi, in the service of Shri Rupa. That's where you'll find Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, and eternally serving in that capacity. So, such a day for us, and we thank our Guru and Gauranga, and Radha and Krishna, Sri Lalita Devi, Sri Rupa, giving us the entrance into this land of no admission. Jai Vishnu Bhajala Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Lalita Saptami ki Jai.
And just to conclude that, so that plane is so high, so no less than Uddhava, Natata Priyatama Atmayonirna Shankara, Nacha Sankarshan Na Sri Naivatma Chayata Bhavan. Uddhava, who knows all the queens of Dwaraka, is Krishna's, no one is more dear, according to Krishna, no one more dear to them than he. His aspiration, hearing about this, to voyeuristically envision himself as one of these silver servitors? No. But asamaho charareno jashama hangshang Vrindavane kimapi gomalatosadinam Yadushtadam swajanam arjapatam chihitva Bejur mukunda padavim shrutivir vimrigyam. It's an aspiration. He's saying, if I could have an atomic presence in that soil. After Brahma Vimohan, he says, Tadburi bhagami hijanma kimapyatavyan yad gokulepi padamangri brij-basi. Same thing. If I could get, have an atomic presence in that soil, then when Srimati Radharani, as we'll hear tomorrow, and her friends and assistants are moving in service in that plane, some of the dust from their holy lotus feet may come upon my head, thereby consecrating my existence. So with that in mind, when we went to Ucha Gaon, it's not on the more popular routes, so there's less being approached there by locals. But some like sweet children, they sort of attach themselves to us. And where we're going, they want to go. They just are excited to see us and be a part of what we're doing. So there's this one little girl, like she keeps following me around, and we go here, and she's just always like next to me. And so at one point, I said to her, like, "What is your name?" Like Apnar Nam here, whatever. And she said, "Prajalata." Remember, Asam ho chorane jashamahang Vrindavane kimapi guma lata. Uddhava's aspiration is to be a Brajalata, a creeper in Braja. And I said, "What is your name?" She goes, "Brajalata." I'm like, Hare Krishna, Brajalita Devi, I can't even begin to estimate the good fortune of your springing out of this soil. So our position is to serve to serve Srila Gurudev, Srila Guru, if they will accept us on some level, assisting in that service, then that'll be our connection to that plane, and inconceivable things can happen in the future. Srila Gurudev would say that. I know where this all goes, and I can happily celebrate that. You may not be fully aware of that, but I know if you connect to this plane through service, this is the ultimate destination. So at the Gurudev said in that prayer, Namashreshtam Manamapi Sachiputra Atra Swarupam, although generally devotees say they've not got, that's the proper mood of expression, as always an aspiration. He said, but interestingly, here in the last line, Das Goswami is saying, Prapto Jasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurun Tanmatosme. Prapto, I got all of this, the name of Krishna, Sachiputra, Sruta, that whole list, divine abode of Mathura, the holy name. He said, I got all of this, and he, is this a statement of arrogance? Prapto Jasya Pratitaya Sri Gurun Tam. By the grace of Sri Guru, this is the wealth that comes to the aspiring servitors. Hare Krishna. So Sri Lalita Saptami ki jai, Sri Lalita Sakhi Devi ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande. And we can sing this song today and tomorrow. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite. Gokula Taruni Mandala Mohite. Gokula Taruni Mandala Mohite. Radhe Jayo Jayo Madhava Daite. Damodara Rati Vardhana Beshe Hari Niskuta Vrinda Vipineshe. Damodara Rati Vardhana Beshe Hari Niskuta Vrinda Vipineshe. Radhe Jayo Jayo Madhava Daite. Vrishabhanu Dadhi Navashashileke Lalita Sakhi Gunaramita Vishake. Vrishabhanudadhi Navashashileke Lalita Sakhi Gunaramita Vishake Radhe Jayo Jayo Madhava Daite Karunam Kurumai Karuna-bari Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Karunam Kurumai Karuna-bari Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Radhe Jayo Jayo Madhava Daite Radhe Jayo Jayo Madhava Daite Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Jai Sri Lalita Saptami ki jai, Sri Lalita Devi ki jai, Sri Lalita Sakhi ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Acharya Asatara Siddha Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Ju ki jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Sri Rupa-nugas Guru Varga ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadip Dham ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Sri Ucha Gaon ki jai. Sri Gupta Govardhan ki jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bimala Avadut Maharaj ki jai. Sannyasi Vrinda ki jai. Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi ki jai. Seva Vrinda ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Lalita Saptami Mahamahotsavatiti ki jai. Sri Lalita Sakhi Devi ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. There is Kum Kum Didi. Dandavat. You remember that day? Of course. Hare Krishna. Rupa Vilas Prabhu and Praveen's Jai. The Abhazya Bhakta Vrinda. Is that Vijay Raman Prabhu?
Yes.
Jai Vijay Raman Prabhu Ki Jai. Dandavat. And Srimad Bhakti Rishikesh Seva and Rishikesh Maharaj Ki. Priyanana Didi and Lakta Dandavat. Malini Didi and Orsk Ki Jai. Seva Rupa Didi in South Africa. Srimad Bhakti is right. Dandi Maharaj Ki Jai. Anindita Didi Ki Jai. Maheshri Didi Ki Jai. Vrinda and Nishdi Novgorod, Kalini Priya's mom, Dandavat. Anjali Didi and Kaselni, Dandavat. Gokula Tarani, there we go, Gokula Tarani, Mandala Mohite, Dandavat. Indulekha and Mitra Binda. This is Mitra Binda's first Lalita Saptami. Hare Krishna. Suresh Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. Ajita Krishna Prabhu and Kaselni, Dandavat. Nirupama Devi Dandavat. And they're the one and only Divya Shakti Didi Ki Jai Dandavat. Madhavi Lata and Odessa Dandavat.
Ivan Marcus.
Hare Krishna. Do we know who that is? Dandavat Prabhu. Sankarshan Prabhu. He's here. Dandavat. Kalini Priya. Here. Dandavat. Praneshri Didi doing the Espanol translation. Dandavat. Nityananda Das doing the Russian translation. Sulakshana Didi doing the Chinese translation. Trilokanath Prabhu. Dandavat. Nadia Priya Didi in Ukraine. Dandavat. Prafula Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat. Purushottama Prabhu in Salt Lake City, Dandavat. Gokuleshwari Didi in Tomsk, Dandavat. Julie in Kazakhstan, Dandavat. Here's a Lalita, Dandavat. Dhananjaya Prabhu, Dandavat. Bhagavan Das Prabhu, Dandavat. Sumati Devi Das, Dandavat. Nikhilananda Das, Dandavat. Madhuri Ma Didi Dandavat, Kamala Didi Dandavat, Damodar Prabhu Dandavat, Chinmoy Dandavat, Doyal Gaur Dandavat. Is that everyone? Right. Jai Vancha Kalpatrivya Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanevya Vaishnaveva Namanva Lakshmi Priya Didi in Ukraine, Dandavat. Yeah, no. The Divya Devi. And Devendra Prabhu and the Infinity Media team, Dandavan. Wonderful broadcast. Great. Dandavan.